Hi there, I'm having a coffee. It's not morning here, it's 6 o'clock in the evening. I've been wrong in my previous video. I thought Alex Jones was not part of these protests, but he's in Texas protesting. He should be in Washington or he should be in New York, because it's not, it's the federal government. It's the government that's out of reach that is not serving you. It's the same as going on in Europe. You can easily, let's say, make the comparison. It's a structure they set up. The way it works is that they set up a government that is out of the reach of the voters, and then they lobby there and make decisions there, and then they come down from that government, and they make all kinds of reasons why you want to have a European government, why you want to have a federal government, and then it grows and grows and grows, and suddenly you don't have representatives anymore. You cannot call anybody anymore. That's the way things go. It's so if you have on the state level you're protesting, you have to know that you're protesting against certain individuals that are, let's say, emissaries, advocates and ambassadors of this federal control and the extension of it. And especially when they're in the financial sector, like the woman from Goldman Sachs that wanted to be a governor in California. You really don't want that, because then you're gonna have, like, that's the same as the Goldman Sachs guy that's running Greece financial recovery, blah blah blah, not recovery at all. And so that's what you on a local level can protest against. And if you en masse demonstrate on the federal level, you can make sure that that federal level starts to, let's say, liberate your local authorities so they can do more, and of course excuse them from the loans that they've been put into, like the whole story of the vampire squid story by Taibbi, which is of course ridiculous, that you have a sewage system which drives up the price of your sewage fee that you have to pay like a 20-fold or something like that, and costs $140 million to lay some pipes. You can forget about it immediately. It's just for collateralization. It's a financialization of everything, and it's not useful. It is a control structure. And I think the main driving thing behind financial institutions is you have to imagine, you have control. That's what you have as a financial, let's say, world. So then what you want? Well, what do you want? You want to have a party, you want to have fun. So you go to Dubai. So that's where the money is going right now. It's going to places which are beautiful, which are fun, where there's growth, where there's many young people, where you can invest and then see some fun results, get some positive response. If you invest in the US right now, it's just too much. I think it's not as much fun. That's basically the whole problem. And if you don't want somebody to make that choice, which is of course rather silly, then you have to resist them and make sure that they become public servants again. It's amazing, because there's one thing that I tried to do for a long time, which was make double glass vacuum windows. So you can, let's say, use vacuum to isolate the loss of heat when you have a solar collector, because these flat plate collectors, they're not very efficient. They lose heat through the glass outside. Now there's a Swiss company that managed to do that. And they make solar collectors based on vacuum glass with a normal collector behind it, and I'll put a link to it below this video. But for ages, in Holland, for everywhere, you can buy so-called, let's say, restoration glass. That's double glass glazing that you can put in old buildings when you restore them. And that's double glazing with vacuum in between. It's exactly what you're looking for. But it's marketed in a certain way so that it is not double glazing normally. It is much more expensive. But what it is in the end is simply double glazing with a vacuum between it. So it's an old invention. It's there for a long time. But if you try to use it for solar collectors, then it's of course way too expensive, because it's marketed towards a section of the market. That's how the market works. It's all basically. It's all, let's say, devised, and it's like land, like territory. This is your territory, this is my patent, your patent, this is how it's going to work. And what I seem to be detecting is that in certain regions of the world, like Switzerland, where you have a large banking sector, these bankers are actually not that happy with that kind of market division, because that means that it's going to stall, that it's going to go still, the whole market. So if you leave let's say you have 5 companies delivering solar panels, they will make deals, price deals, and they'll be trading at a certain price. And they'll be content with that because the clients want that, and etc. Whoever tries to come into that market will be burdened with all kinds of certificates and shit like that. That's going on right now with solar panels. But of course, if you're a bank, you want these people to not consolidate, because that means that after a while they won't have any debt anymore, and they'll be stable and they'll be controlling the market. So what you need to do is to make sure that inventions are made or highlighted, like this double glazing invention, which can disturb the market, which can be a new product, which can fight its way into the market. And then you can extend credit to the company that does so, and you can reap fees over it. The world without a banking system as we have it right today would eventually balance out. It would be a world where you have simply cultures with a certain mentality and a certain set of devices that they use, like we used to have. And all this development and improvement and technologically advance is not necessary per se. And actually you see a strong regression where medicine that are sold very expensively are suddenly not being made anymore, because people want to simplify and people are not educated to become pharmaceutical experts, so nobody can make these medicine after a while. No, there's this withdrawal, and which, so actually, I lost the thread of my thoughts again, it's horrible, but banks, I think, want to egg on competition, and sometimes, like in this case, it's good because this company makes the product, it shows it around. By the way, you also have hybrid solar panels which collect heat, because 85% of the light falling on them turns into heat, useless heat, with which you can heat water. But these panels are made with a back panel made out of plastic, so that it cannot be used for that purpose easily, because the plastic isolates it, which makes it lose the heat on the front. Anyway, you can find something to do about that, but it's quite technical. The same company also makes multicolor sensitive solar panels with a yield that is reaching into the 50% or something like that. They have a patent for that, but they're not making it. And they have a whole bunch of patents, which is interesting. So the question is, and in a similar vein, you know, you see a news item. This is about technology that is not being applied. You see a news item of scientists in Switzerland developing silicon 6 cells, copper, indium, germanium, selenium. I can say the abbreviation, and I have some cells that are like that, but you cannot really buy them readily. Well, they should be cheaper because there's a couple of metals in them. It's evaporated onto plastic, and that's it, because they become flexible. It's very thin, so it's flexible. You don't need a back panel, you don't need aluminium to make it rigid, all this stuff you don't need. And they have developed these cells that are 18.7% efficient, which is more than normal silicon cells. There was a news item in May this year where they show on a picture a complete cell, so with the electronical leads and all design, because it's basically spray painted. You can say it can almost be inkjetted on a substrate, so you can make you can simply print your cell, and then you well, it's the whole process. Even if it's evaporative condensation, blah blah, then you can make it go exactly where you want it. And so now, is there a production line for these cells? Because they're cheaper to make, they're lighter to transport because they're on a plastic substrate. The metals that are used are to be found in abundance. There's just a whole new deposit discovered in Australia, and they're more efficient. They can withstand heat better. You want them. People want them, but no, not yet. And that's and that's been the story for years now. And there's always somebody then says, okay, well, let's do it. Let's put 50 million into a factory making these things. And then Wall Street comes in and says, okay, well, we put another extra 200 million in it and make it a real good project. And then they blow all the money and it's a failure. Or these cells become extremely expensive. You can't afford them anymore. And nobody's helped by the whole process. Anyway, that's the technology side. I think it's very interesting to consider what you can do with these type of technologies. And I have this blog, Green Check, where I write about it, and I hope people pick it up. I had an article recently which was about lead acid batteries being flow batteries, which means that if you want to have a store in your city, you want to store a lot of electricity, you can do that using flow batteries based on lead acid technology, which is the simple technology that you see everywhere, which is very, very cheap. And you don't need vanadium flow batteries, which are nice, of course, also, and maybe nothing wrong with them, and maybe, price-wise they're much more expensive because they're new technology. And I guess you have lithium ceramic batteries, which can also be flow batteries. You have all these technologies, and at the current system, where let's say decisions are made centralized, and the financial situation causes people to be completely immobilized and paralyzed, and actually the social structure to deteriorate, because you become homeless, but there's a law against helping homeless people or something like that, something crazy. That doesn't help with simply dealing with the problems that you might come across, and actually grabbing the opportunities that might be there. I think that's a horrible crime. I think that it's almost like America is being punished. And you also already see the negative impact of it in Greece, where people commit suicide more, they become sick more, and they don't get medical treatment, and the society is suffering for no reason. For the only reason that they are in a financial structure which is not reliable anymore, which is designed for destruction, like this Congress, the woman from Consumer Protection Agency said yesterday. It is, my grandfather did the same thing. He kept companies of countries in South America. He went there, he would invest in buy up companies and then break them up and sell the parts. That's the model. So US has been broken up and sold by its part. Greece has been broken up and sold by its part. That's the business model, but that only works when you allow it to work. You will never have a government ministry of breaking up companies and selling the parts. So I guess something happened in, I believe it's Finland, one of these smaller countries, or Denmark, I believe, they nationalized a bank. Nationalized the banks. And then, of course, you won't have a department of breaking up companies and destroying them and selling the parts and laying the people off anymore. So I guess that's what you can't achieve those type of goals in Austin, or in Boston, or in Charleston. You have to go to Washington and New York. Thanks for listening.